Welcome back. This is the part 2 episode of our Week 15 sitter start, and we're going to jump pretty quickly in. Congrats again if you made your playoffs. If you didn't or you're looking for side fun, we have our Week 15 DFS episode and the free DraftKings contest links in the description. We'd love to have you join us. Let's jump into those 4 p.m. and night games.
4 p.m. games. This is where you want all your players, well, in the night games. So hopefully you didn't have as many on that first episode. And now, because you're in the playoffs, this is where all of the fantasy goodness is coming from, I think. These games are just a whole lot more fun. So let's kick it off with the Indianapolis Colts at the Denver Broncos. Denver's favored by 3.5, and the over-under is 44. Both teams are coming off of their bye week. No notable injuries to note. Colts are getting back Josh Downs this week, which is the most consistent wide receiver this year. So he's going to be that down the field threat. Problem is, Anthony Richardson has only had 2 games where he's had a completion rate above 50%. That's crazy.
That seems low for a starting quarterback.
It's very low. Yes, it is not good. He's going to look to get the ball, I think, to Josh Downs, who can actually catch it. Anyhow, can we get another passing game from the Broncos like we saw with Cleveland in week 13 on Monday night? That was so much fun. Can we get another one of those in this game? That's what we're going to be going for and hoping that we get, so our fantasy numbers are all bumped up. Colts are trying to see what they have in Anthony Richardson, and if he can manage the game and pass that ball and get that completion rate and start to look better. But he's going to steal touches from Jonathan Taylor. Either way, I feel like this is kind of a bad matchup for both Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor. They share too much of the running game. They'll probably make their numbers, but it really only gets a lot of fun if we do get that passing situation. And that's going to probably depend on the Broncos pushing the score a little bit more. It's a must-win game for the Colts, but Denver needs it also. So both of these teams need this win. If the Colts lose this game, then they're out of this race. It might be still technically possible, but a Houston win and a Colts loss, I think, might eliminate them for good.
So both teams are going to be pushing, which could just drive up the score here.
It could. It might be fun, or it could be that Broncos play defense. We know the Colts aren't going to play defense. Colts can't play defense, which makes Courtland Sutton and maybe even Bo Nix a must start. I love that side of the ball. I don't want to guess which running back Sean Payton's going to decide is the back this week. They've got their 3. They can sort it out. You've got better running back options, I'm sure. Don't use any of the Broncos running backs. But if they're going to pass the ball, I love Courtland Sutton and Bo Nix. You can maybe start Anthony Richardson. He has a high upside. So if you're in a game where you maybe played somebody on Thursday night that you shouldn't have played, or that just got kind of skunked out in that 6 field goal game, then you may need to take a little more risk. And Anthony Richardson does provide that risk. He comes with a high ceiling. He could run in for a few touchdowns, and he could score the 30 points that we all kind of hoped and expected him to be able to do. He's stayed remarkably healthy this year, so that's kind of been a surprise to me. He's usually always broken, but he's still not broken. He just can't seem to figure out defenses, and we'll see what Sean Payton kind of schemes up to throw at him, but it's probably going to confuse him pretty well.
Well, let's continue on to Buffalo at Detroit, where Detroit is favored. The over-under is 54, and the Detroit's only favored by 2.5. So Vegas thinks this will be a score fest. I know we've seen a lot of Detroit games end up a score fest, and Buffalo likes to keep games competitive.
They do. So yeah, this is what we want for the Super Bowl, right? This is the
Yes.
Super Bowl matchup that we're all dreaming about at night, that we get the Bills and the Lions playing, and then we don't care who wins, and it's a score fest. So that's what we're dreaming about for sure.
And it's
There's
at
no weather
Detroit, so
issues. Yeah.
yeah, it's no
So
weather.
no weather issues. Although we like watching those games, when it comes to the Super Bowl, I don't really want that. I'd rather it be in a dome and I just get to see who has the best football team. So we're going to get to see that in this matchup. You can pick literally anyone in this game to start and take a chance on it. If it is the score fest, then everyone's going to be seeing points. The one that comes with a little bit of a caution is James Cook. So running the ball for the Bills, when the Bills get behind, they abandon that run game. If they're ever behind or they're just in that situation where they're exchanging touchdowns, then it becomes an issue with James Cook and running the ball, which is kind of interesting because the other side of the ball on the Lions side, the Bills are giving up a lot of points to running backs, and the Lions like to run the ball. So we could see definitely crazy games out of Jahmyr Gibbs or David Montgomery in this situation. Although I expect that they're throwing the ball a lot too, and Amon-Ra St. Brown is getting a share as well as Jamison Williams. Heck, even Tim Patrick, we saw him have a great day the last few weeks.
I feel like you have to start Khalil Shakir then. If Buffalo's going to have to abandon the run and Shakir's been the favorite.
So let's talk about the pass catchers for the Bills. They're going to get Keon Coleman back, it looks like. He was not on the injury report. That's very exciting. So this could be the game, the first game in a long time that we see Keon Coleman, Amari Cooper, and Shakir all playing together. Now it becomes, who's going to get the ball? Is it going to be Shakir? Are they going to be checking it down to Shakir a little bit more? Or are they going to try to go for those deep balls and get it to Keon Coleman? Now, the Lions defense hasn't been great the last few weeks. They've got a lot of injuries that they're dealing with, but at the same time, they haven't given up over 30 fantasy points to a player since week 4, and that was Kenneth Walker. It's going to be interesting in this game to see if it's the shootout that we imagine. And we've all seen that before where we're all excited about this game that has a high total. And then it turns out to be this defensive stalemate of a game that no one's willing to take a chance because we're all hoping that the moment they step on the field, they just start airing out the ball.
We saw Detroit have a lower scoring game last week or two. So I think this one though is I think Vegas is on the right track of it's going to be a high scoring go back and forth game.
I think so. Amon-Ra St. Brown's put up duds the last 2 weeks, but
He's
that
due
was since
then.
he is due, and the week before that, it was his 41-point game. So we need this to get back to average. He's had 2 low-scoring weeks. We need his 41 points again.
Are
You're
you
starting
playing?
everybody.
Are you starting the Buffalo tight end?
Yeah, so it looks like the Bills are going to get Kincaid back this week, which makes Dawson Knox, a little bit more questionable even. They're going to have all of their weapons, all 3 of their wide receivers, both of their tight ends. They're bringing it all to this game, which is going to make it fun to see. But that makes both tight ends a little bit more questionable with Kincaid coming back.
Let's continue on to Pittsburgh at Philadelphia, where Philadelphia is favored by 5 and the over-under is 42.5. George Pickens did not practice Thursday.
He didn't. I know they're trying to get Pickens back, but he's battling that hamstring injury. We just hate those hamstring injuries because they seem so questionable when they're going to make it back from them, and they're hard to recover from. This is another very important cross-conference game and could be another Super Bowl matchup. It's hard to imagine that we get a whole Pennsylvania Super Bowl matchup, but it could happen. So the Steelers are looking to keep their 2-game lead over division rival Baltimore Ravens. And Philly's trying to chase down the Lions for that top spot in the NFC and a bye. There's a lot on the line here, and the Lions are playing at the same time, so they won't know anything. Well, the Steelers will know what the Ravens did, but I'm sure they're expecting a win for the Ravens over the Giants, as we all are. So it is another game that's setting up to be a fun one to watch. This game just feels like a super defensive game and no one really wants to show their cards. Maybe they just run Saquon Barkley a lot, but they refused to do that last week against the Panthers. They really insisted on letting Jalen Hurts throw the ball, but Hurts is dealing with a hand injury on his non throwing hand. And I kind of wonder if that was what we saw last week in a lot of those passes that he wasn't completing. And then we had the whole news of AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts weren't getting along. But Jalen Hurts did the right thing, kind of stepped up and squashed that and said, yeah, he's right. I need to get him the ball more. So is this our AJ Brown show that we've been waiting for?
I feel like going into the last week against the Panthers, I wonder if in behind the scenes they were kind of like, let's try some things and this should be an easy matchup. So we're going to test things out. And that's what we saw last week is we saw them testing more things out. And so this week though, it's very on we need to win this.
Yeah,
And
I think that, yeah, they've got to be getting down to business. And this is a game that you need to win. And it's not going to be as easy as Carolina was supposed to be. So they've
I
got
don't
to
feel
got
like
to
they stop
focus.
rushing Saquon Barkley after 5 yards
No.
because they want to try throwing. So they want to try something different.
No, but you've got to. I mean, obviously, you're starting Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, all must starts. Najee Harris is interesting. I mean, are we going to see more Jalen Warren? We never quite know who's going to get the majority of the carries, and the Eagles' defense can shut you down. So both Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, if you've got to start them, then hopefully they'll make their numbers. I'm a little worried with George Pickens being out because I feel like the whole offense kind of revolves around him opening up the field. And without him, can that offense even function in a good matchup, well, not a good matchup, a defensive matchup like this against the Eagles, against a good team? It becomes a question on that side. For that reason, I'm not starting Russell Wilson. I'm not starting Russell Wilson ever. I still don't believe in Russell Wilson. But in this matchup, I'm definitely not starting him. And 100% without George Pickens, he's not leaving my bench. There's definitely better streaming plays than Russell Wilson. Then we have Grant Calcaterra, the tight end for the Eagles. You're probably starting him. There aren't a lot of starting tight ends out there. I don't like this matchup for him, but they could be checking it down a little bit more and keeping it a little bit tighter and not going down the field to AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, and then we'll see more of Calcaterra. He'll probably make his numbers, so you're gonna have to go ahead and start him as well. But no high ceilings here. This isn't like the last game in the Bills and Lions where we expect points, points, points. This is a low scoring game. And even if they make their fantasy targets, they don't have that potential to hit those big numbers.
And we've seen previously that the Steelers are willing to just kick field goal after field goal to win. That Baltimore Steelers game, that's essentially what we saw is just field goals to
Yep.
win.
Field goals to win. A win's a win. Doesn't matter how you get it.
Well, let's continue on to New England at Arizona, where Arizona's favored by 5.5. Over under is 46. So, a bit higher than the last game we just talked about. Trey McBride was limited at practice on Thursday with a knee injury, and DeMarcado did not practice Thursday with a back injury.
This game's not as fun. Cardinals are kind of still in their division race, but they've got 3 losses in a row, so I'm not giving them a whole lot of hope to pull out that division. Patriots are having fun with Drake May, seeing what they've got. They're coming off their bye week. Kind of like the Patriots side, Drake May brings that fun into the game. And I think we expected more out of the Cardinals this year. I think that's kind of where the disappointment comes in this game. The one big thing you talked about Trey McBride being injured. We want this to be Trey McBride's game where he finally gets a touchdown. He's had 80 catches for 851 yards and no touchdowns. When he gets a touchdown, I expect like that's going to be it. We get a flood of touchdowns and he gets back to average. So if we've got 3 weeks of regular season, and he needs to get back to average on his touchdown numbers with those other number statistics that he's got that are great, the 80 catches and 851 yards. He should have like 8 touchdowns at least by now with those numbers. So is he going to get them all in the next 3 weeks? If he is, well, that's going to be a lot of fun for fantasy managers. So you're definitely starting him. He's got a great matchup in this game against a weak New England Patriots defense, but it's still not as good as James Conner. You can run the ball against the Patriots. And so James Conner, especially with Mercado being out and not having a big backup there, because they usually like to go to Amari Mercado and kind of share a little bit, but it's all James Conner. James Conner's got is set up to have an amazing day against the Patriots. I like the Patriots though too.
I think this is a good matchup for one of my favorite tight ends for Hunter Henry.
It is a great matchup for Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry, Drake May, even Demario Douglas. These are all plays that I could get on board with and go ahead and start in this game. Marvin Harrison, I don't know. He just hasn't looked good, but if he can't get it done against the Patriots defense, then I'm going to have some real concerns going into next year's draft.
Let's continue on to Tampa Bay at the LA Chargers, where the LA Chargers are favored by 3. This is a East Coast going West Coast game, and the over-under is 45.5. We have a slew. This injury list is longer than I'd like, that's for sure. With Mike Evans, who didn't practice Thursday. He had that hamstring injury earlier in the season. I didn't see exactly why he didn't practice, but gives me a little pause. Sterling Shepard didn't practice Thursday due to a hamstring injury. Bucky Irving didn't practice Thursday to back and hip injuries. Ladd McConkey was limited at practice Thursday, and then Justin Herbert was limited at practice Thursday. Who are we going to see in this game?
That's a good question. And that's what everyone has to be watching, because this is my top game of the weekend. I love this game and I will be watching this game for sure. It is my primetime game. I'm excited about it. It's the one that we went to in DFS in our episode for DFS and using a lot of the parts on this. I am making the assumption that didn't practice because he's Mike Evans and he knows what he's doing. Fine. He's getting some extra rest, which he needs. Sterling Shepard, this one's interesting because when Chris Godwin went down, we saw Cade Otton step in and have monster games. And Cade Otton's games remained monster until we started seeing Sterling Shepard build his chemistry with Baker Mayfield. And once Sterling Shepard got more of the work and became a bigger part of the offense, then we saw Cade Otton's numbers go down. So if Sterling Shepard doesn't play, is Cade Otton in for another monster game? That's what I would think.
Then
if
then
you're
Sterling
starting.
Shepard's out.
Even if he's not out, you've
Yeah.
got to start him. This game has the potential to go crazy. It does land on the Chargers side. What can the Chargers do? Can the Chargers pass? So Justin Herbert has to play, and he needs Ladd McConkey because he can't depend on Quentin Johnston or Joshua Palmer. They need that extra threat. They don't have the running threat in Gus Edwards. Although it's a great matchup for Gus Edwards, and they're going to try to run the ball, and I'd start Gus Edwards against this really, really weak Tampa Bay defense.
I feel like this is a little bit like what we say with Cincinnati games where they're going to score back and forth, hopefully. And I'd like this on the overside.
I like this on the overside. Sometimes I think that we get too excited over the potential game that could happen, and that excitement just like builds and builds, and then we don't quite think it all through what we should actually be doing and starting our players here.
Yeah.
Must start to me or Rashad White. I don't expect Bucky Irving to play. If he plays, he's been so banged up. It could be another situation that we saw last week where he didn't finish the game. So he should be extremely limited. If you're looking for somebody who's like, I just need some points and I'm willing to take a big risk, Sean Tucker. If Bucky Irving's out, Sean Tucker has shown us that he is a very explosive player. So In addition, if we lose both Sterling Shepard and Bucky Irving, then Sean Tucker could have a monster game here. You're obviously starting Baker Mayfield. And like we talked about, Kate Otten, Justin Herbert, assuming he starts. Lad McConkey, if he starts, has got to go in there. If McConkey's not there and Justin Herbert's in, Quentin Johnston, I don't know. Are you going to give him a chance?
Yeah, I'd give him
All
a
right,
chance.
you'll give him a chance.
Yep.
I get a little nervous, and it really depends then on who you've got sitting on your bench. But this
Well, I
game
think
has the
that's a
potential
good.
to be fun.
This is a
Yes.
4 p.m. game. Say you want to play Justin Herbert, and 1 p.m., it still seems like he's going to be in. You get closer to game time, all of a sudden, Justin Herbert's out. What do you do?
Then you better have somebody in a 4 o'clock time slot to turn to, or on the Sunday night or Monday night. So you've got to make sure that you've got a quarterback sitting on your waiver wire or on your bench that could potentially fill in that gap. There are probably some streamers that you could pick up. I mean, Kyler Murray, Drake May, you could always turn to Drake May. He would be another great one. The inactives are going to come out 90 minutes in advance. And we may even see this cleared up, on Friday, Saturday, but I don't see any way. We've seen Justin Herbert gut it out before, and they're willing to injure him, which I don't quite understand because it's looking really good this year. And if this isn't the year probably for them, but they're not willing to shut him down. They're gonna try to stay in there. That's their job, and Justin Herbert wants to play more than anyone that I've seen. He's not an Anthony Richardson.
Let's continue on to the Green Bay at Seattle game, where Green Bay is favored by 2.5. Over under is 46. This is the Sunday night game. So if you were trying to play someone in a 4 p.m. game that suddenly went out, this is maybe a game you could pull from, though a lot of the people are probably drafted. So you'd have to have them on your bench already.
That's true. And we've got Romeo Dobbs, concussion, practiced fully on Thursday. So he looks to be coming back to add to the wide receiver mix for the Green Bay Packers. I don't want to pick which wide receiver. Now we got another one. I don't really want to make that choice of which wide receiver Jordan Love might throw to this week. And it'd be different if they were like letting Jordan Love actually throw the ball. If he was throwing the ball like Jameis Winston, then all the wide receivers would get love. But he's not. They're letting him throw like 20 times, and they're just running the ball with Josh Jacobs. And that plan isn't going to change here in Seattle, I don't think. The only thing that could make it more interesting is on the Seattle side of the ball. Can Seattle force Love to have to throw the ball? Can they run up the score? And they're still wondering, are we getting Kenneth Walker back or are we going with Charbonnet? Kenneth Walker is getting tests. They haven't ruled him out, but I can't imagine. I mean, he was a surprise to me last week going out. And I got caught by that. The person I was playing picked up Charbonnet, and that ended very badly for me. Charbonnet is a good start here. Even though the Packers defense is good, it's not great. So he could definitely get a lot of the work, and he could look good. So you're definitely starting both of the running backs in this game, Josh Jacobs and Zach Charbonnet. Both teams are going to try to run the ball and take the pressure off of their quarterbacks. The problem is, can you do that, or do you have to throw the ball, or does somebody get that big pass play that breaks the game open? I feel more like it would be on the Seahawks side. I don't know. You're a Seahawks fan. What do you feel like? And is DK Metcalf going to play?
Yeah, I think that's the big question is if DK Metcalf is going to play. I think that they definitely could, on the Seahawks side, get that big pass play open. If DK isn't playing, does it go to JSN?
Well,
'Cause
JSN, you've got
Lockett's,
to start
yeah,
anyway. So JSN is a must start. He is the wide receiver one, it seems like, on this team rather than Metcalf. But he gets shut down more if Metcalf isn't there. So it
yes.
opens up the field if Metcalf's there for JSN for sure. DK would be a maybe start for me. I'm definitely starting JSN. I've got to give him a chance in this game. I feel like he's going to hit his numbers. It just might not be as high.
I'm starting DK. If he's in, I have to keep my eye on the injuries. And if he's going to be out, I need to have a backup plan in place already going into the weekend since I know he's on the injury list. So another
Yeah.
call out again. I've been saying this like 3 times in this episode
This
already
must
of
happen to you a lot.
no, but we're at the playoffs. So I feel like I'm being extra cautious. Maybe I'm just more competitive in the playoffs of like, I don't want to lose any game. And during the season, if I have a one that goes out and I need to pick up someone from the waiver wire, I'm more okay with it. Whereas I want to have a strategy and plan in place that I know ahead of time for playoffs.
All right. Well, this game could be the turd game where they just kick a bunch of field goals as well.
Could. Which then leads us to our Monday night games because we have 2 Monday night games. Chicago at Minnesota, where Minnesota's favored by 7. Over under is 43.5. We got a couple of injuries with Rashawn Johnson and a concussion. He didn't practice on Thursday. DeAndre Swift didn't practice on Thursday. And Aaron Jones was limited to practice on Thursday due to that back injury.
Yeah, they aren't looking really good with their running backs on either side of the ball here. This game is a little interesting on Monday nights. Because it's on Monday night, the Vikings will know now if the Lions and or the Eagles lost on Sunday. A Lions loss and an Eagles loss and a Vikings win would put them all tied at 12-2 in the NFC. That would make it a lot of fun for the remaining games. They'll know that going into this game. On the Bears side, I don't know. The Bears are just having a meltdown. We got a little bump because they fired the coach, but that whole team is just a disaster. And they only play half a game. I don't understand that at all. So the last 2 games against the Lions and the 49ers, 0 points in the first half. And then they can score some points. The 49ers got a big lead. That Lions game, they actually came back in pretty well. But I don't understand why they don't play in the first half.
I feel like
We keep
they must be
expecting
going
more.
in with one strategy, and then when it's not working in the first half, they're like, okay, we're gonna go do this other thing, and they the second half strategy. Do they just need to start with maybe?
Apparently they do because it's not working, whatever they strategize to do in the first half of games. It's just bad. I they make good adjustments at halftime, but then it's too late.
It makes you
So
wonder why they can't start
this
with that.
is yeah, this is definitely a Vikings game, and you're starting your Vikings players. You've got to take the risk. I mean, Sam Darnold may not need to do a whole lot with Justin Jefferson or Jordan Addison, who, let's talk about a minute. Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson, are they like in a race and going, I get a touchdown, you get a touchdown, you get a touchdown, I want another one? I- It's fun to watch. Jordan Addison has done a lot more this year than I expected and took a lot more touchdowns away from Justin Jefferson than expected. But you've got to play both of them and give them their chance. Aaron Jones, I don't know if he's going to play. If he doesn't play, we see a lot of Cam Akers in this game. And he's definitely in a spot where you could pick him up at running back if Aaron Jones would be out, but you'd be waiting really late to make that call.
And that kind of goes
I
back
don't,
to our handcuff comment that we've made in a previous waiver wire episode of picking up your running back handcuffs.
yes. Yeah. If you do have Aaron Jones, then you should definitely be picking up Cam Akers to have just in case.
Especially with this being a Monday night game. You're going to need
Yes.
someone. You don't want your opponent picking him up last minute to block you.
Exactly. So I don't want to play anyone from the Bears, Odunze, Keenan Allen. The Vikings defense has been good, and hopefully that's not who you're relying on.
Well, let's wrap this up with the second Monday night game of Atlanta at Las Vegas. Atlanta's favored by 3.5. Over under is 44.5. We got some on the injury list here too. Mooney limited at practice Thursday with a foot injury. Jacoby Myers limited at practice Thursday with an ankle injury. Aiden O'Connell did not practice Thursday with a knee injury. This is another one I thought for some reason was out for the season, but is only showing up as did not
Aiden O'Connell
practice.
got carted off the field in an air cast last week, but now he has the potential to play. I don't think we see him. We'll see Desmond Ritter, but it is kind of interesting to know, yeah, air cast. Nope, it's not broken. Well, get in there and play. Either way, it'd just be bad. It was bad last week, and they seem to forget that they even had Brock Bowers last week, only targeting him 5 times in that game. It was just sad. The only bright spot for the Raiders is Sincere McCormick. He's actually a great flex play. I picked him up and played him last week. He appeared on, one of our waiver wire pickup episodes, and he's done a great job and is getting all the carries for the Raiders. He may be heavily involved in this game, and they get to see what they've got in Sincere McCormick. So he's a great pickup late on Monday if you need somebody to play. Hopefully you don't. This game's just like a stinker. I don't know what we did. They had to give us like 2 games on Monday night to make us feel like we even had a game, because neither of these games are extremely watchable and fun games.
I wonder why they didn't flex one. I know last week they couldn't. They had to keep that Cincinnati Dallas game because they were doing the simulcast with Nickelodeon and had done all the art
I don't think you can
assets.
flex into Monday night.
Oh.
You can flex into Sunday night, but you can't flex into a Monday night game. But I
Good
don't
to
know
know.
why they decided to give us 2 on this week. That is unusual this late in the season to give us 2, especially, when we've got holidays and people doing other things. But let's talk about the Falcons side of the ball. Can we just see Michael Penix and get rid of Kirk Cousins? I'm tired of watching the Kirk Cousins meltdown. I just want to see the rookie, see what he can do, have fun in the football game. But I guess technically the Falcons are still in their division race. They're not eliminated. So they're going to give it to Cousins and see if he can win the game. They have to be in this game targeting Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier to split the carries and just get the win for them against a weak Raiders defense.
And Ray McLeod had a good game last week.
He did 11 targets and 98 yards. That was kind of crazy. It's always funny. I feel like when they're like Ray McLeod watching the TV and you see him pop up his photo and you can just see the outline and it's Ray McLeod. It's so funny. But he had a great game. He's definitely stepping up. And if Darnell Mooney's out, we'll see more Ray.
I need instead of a who's that Pokemon game, a who's that NFL player game.
That would be funny. Soma starts. Bijan. Drake London. You want to start Drake London? I don't want to start Drake London, but I feel like he's Drake London. You got to start him in a soft defensive matchup.
And you drafted him as high as you probably did. So
you did the same with Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers. We'll have to wait and see if Jacoby Myers plays, but otherwise, those 2, Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers, are getting all the targets, even though we're going to see Desmond Ritter, which does give me pause. Desmond Ritter, there's a reason that the Falcons got rid of you. And maybe Ray McLeod.
Yeah, I feel like he has good potential.
Yeah.
I think that wraps us up then, though, for Week 15 games.
It does.
Good luck if you are both in your playoffs or even playing in the consolation or toilet bowls, or if you're looking for some fun where you get to play whoever you want to play. Come join us in our free DraftKings contest. The link for that and our Week 15 DFS episode is in the description. Good luck this weekend.
Good luck.